All right, dreamers and thinkers, welcome to another deep dive. You with us. Today we're going to be exploring something pretty fascinating. Some pretty big themes, really. We're talking responsibility and sacrifice in Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. And we've got some seriously insightful academic analysis to guide us.
Buckle up.
Yeah, you might want to grab a notebook for this one, but if you've ever wondered about the true cost of power, or what it really takes to lead, well, stick around.
Because The Sandman, it goes way deeper than just a captivating story. It's like this mirror reflecting the human condition, but amplified through this lens of mythology and fantasy. It's really something.
Exactly. I mean, think about Morpheus, the Dream King, right? He's not just like the Sandman sprinkling good dreams on kids. This guy is responsible for the whole fabric of the dreaming, maintaining that balance between, our world and the realm of imagination. Talk about pressure.
It's immense. And the way Morpheus carries that weight, the way he leads, it says everything about him. He's all about unyielding duty, obsessed with order, almost to the point where he detaches emotionally.
Yeah, it's almost like he's lost the ability to connect with others on a personal level because of this all-consuming sense of responsibility. And he's not just dealing with abstract ideas here, right? There are some real, tangible threats he faces. The Corinthian, for example.
Oh, the Corinthian. He's a masterpiece. Gaiman takes these inner struggles of Morpheus, this fear of losing control, and bam, turns it into a rogue nightmare. The Corinthian is a walking, talking embodiment of chaos.
And a stark reminder of what happens when dreams' grip slips, even a little.
Right, like the boundaries between dreams and reality, they're fragile. The Corinthian just shoves that in your face.
And it really makes you think about Morpheus's leadership style. Can he truly be effective, if he's so emotionally distant, especially when he has to make these impossible choices, constantly sacrificing his own happiness to keep everything in check? I mean, the decision to end his son's eternal suffering, that's heavy stuff.
Oh, absolutely. The Sandman doesn't shy away from those difficult questions about sacrifice. It makes you think, is it always noble? Is a good outcome guaranteed? Morpheus is always dealing with the unintended consequences of his choices.
Right. Because it's not always about letting go either. Sometimes even creating becomes a sacrifice for him. He has to rein in or even destroy these incredible things he's brought to life when they get out of hand. It's almost like a parent, letting go, but for the sake of the universe.
There's a lot of parenting metaphors going on with Dream.
Yeah.
And you hit on something key, this tension between duty and personal freedom. It's everywhere in The Sandman.
Yeah, especially in his relationships. Look at Calliope and Nada, for example.
Yeah.
You can see how his responsibilities just clash with what he wants, leaving him alone, yearning for this connection he can't seem to reach.
Exactly. And then you toss in the family drama, desire and delirium. Talk about your chaotic siblings. They are literally forces of, well, desire and delirium. They poke at Morpheus constantly, making him question that whole rigid worldview of his.
And we all know those family members, right?
Yeah.
The ones who love to push your buttons, make you see things differently. It's universal. But desire and delirium, they take it to a cosmic level.
Absolutely. And through them, Morpheus has to confront this uncomfortable truth. Even the Dream King can't control everything. Human nature is fluid, messy. Desire and delirium embody that.
It makes me think about how his actions echo through time. It's not just the present he's affecting, but the future of the dreaming. Every choice he makes carries this immense weight of consequence.
That's what's so compelling. Gaiman doesn't portray Morpheus as some perfect being. He makes mistakes, big ones, like imprisoning Nada. That was a doozy. But those screw-ups, they make it relatable.
Right. It shows that even an immortal being can be flawed, make bad calls, regret things. Who hasn't been there? But the question is, can we learn and actually change course?
And for Morpheus, it seems like redemption might require the ultimate sacrifice, right? Giving himself up to save the dreaming. That's commitment.
Seriously. It really makes you think about the nature of responsibility, what it means to be truly free. Leading sometimes means incredible acts of selflessness, even death.
It's a core concept in Morpheus's journey. Was true redemption even possible without a cost that high? And his death. It's not an ending. It's a beginning. Things shift. Other characters have to step up. Lucien, his librarian, and Matthew the Raven. They become these symbols of how leadership has to evolve.
It's beautiful, but also kind of terrifying. And it brings up this question about the rest of us, right? We're not these cosmic beings. Can we find meaning and responsibility and sacrifice without all that power? That's where the human side of the Sandman comes in.
Gaiman's a genius at weaving the everyday into the extraordinary. He's saying, look, even with these epic battles between gods and monsters, the human experience matters. And it's characters like Hob Gadling, who gets immortality from Dream, who show us that.
Yeah, Hob. Living through centuries, seeing it all, that's a unique perspective on how responsibility changes over time. It makes you think, what if we had forever? Would we be more careful, more reckless?
It's a question Gaiman wants us to wrestle with, and it speaks to the enduring power of stories. It's not just about the gods and monsters, right? It's about us, the individual journeys, the choices we make, the consequences we face. That's what resonates.
And when it comes to choices, no one embodies that more than the endless family, right? They're like this cosmic case study on how differently we can approach responsibility. You've got death, all compassionate and understanding, and then desire, all about manipulation and chaos.
And they constantly challenge Morpheus, right? Forcing him to see that maybe, just maybe, his strict way isn't the only way, that there's room for empathy, for compassion within all that duty.
It really makes you think, which of those endless siblings do you connect with most? Do you lean towards dream's unwavering order or death's gentle acceptance? It's a fascinating question to ask yourself because ultimately, the Sandman is about pushing us to examine our own values and how we deal with our own responsibilities right here in the waking world.
And that's why The Sandman is so much more than a comic. It's an invitation to explore what it means to be human. Those big questions about duty, choice, the things we have to sacrifice, it's all there. And hopefully we come out of it understanding ourselves and the world a little bit better.
And we've only just scratched the surface. We've got dreams' heavy burdens, the tangled web of sacrifice, and the endless family's crazy approaches to duty. But there's so much more to uncover.
Next time, we're diving deeper into the lives of the human characters in The Sandman, exploring how they deal with responsibility and sacrifice, offering a perspective that's relatable and grounded.
So, stick around. We're going to keep exploring the captivating world of the Sandman. You know, it's amazing how Gaiman takes these larger-than-life figures like Morpheus and then puts them side by side with regular people just living their life. It's almost like he's saying, hey, look, even with gods and monsters, the human experience still matters.
Yeah, it's such a smart way to tell a story. It lets us connect with those huge themes on a personal level. We see ourselves in characters like Hob Gadling, even though he's immortal. He goes through the same ups and downs we do.
And you can't talk about Hob without talking about how his perspective on responsibility changes over time. I mean, think about it. He gets eternal life. So death is basically off the table. How does that affect his approach to being responsible?
Well, that's a question Gaiman explores every time Hob shows up in The Sandman. We see him wrestle with what it means to live forever. At first, there's a sense of freedom, almost reckless abandon because he knows he can't die.
He's pushing the limits, right? Taking risks a normal person wouldn't even think about. But does that invincibility make him less responsible? Or does it actually make him more responsible in the long run?
That's the fascinating part. As time goes on, Hobbes' views change. He sees empires rise and fall. He sees the best and worst of humanity. And this long view of history gives him a deep understanding of consequences.
It's like immortality doesn't free him from responsibility. It actually ties him to it in a much deeper way. He becomes this witness to human history. He realizes that even his smallest choices have ripple effects that last for centuries.
Exactly. And we see that evolution most clearly in his encounters with Morpheus. Their meetings over the centuries are like progress reports. They show us how much Hob has grown and how his sense of responsibility has matured.
Remember that first meeting? Hobbs, all cocky, almost challenging dream. He's like, I'm going to live forever just to see what happens. But as time passes, the seriousness comes over him.
I think that change comes directly from the responsibilities he chooses to take on. He builds relationships, he makes communities, he experiences both love and loss. He doesn't just exist. He really lives.
And those experiences, those connections, they shape his sense of duty. It's not about proving anything to dream anymore. It's about making the most of this gift of life, contributing to the world in a way that matters.
And that makes you think about our own responsibility to the world, given that we don't live forever. If Hob feels the weight of consequence so strongly, even with all that time, what does that say about our own choices, our own actions?
That's a question that goes beyond the Sandman Gaiman's pushing us to think about the impact we have on the world, even if our lives are just a blink of an eye compared to eternity.
And it's not just Hob who teaches us about human responsibility. Look at Rose Walker. This seemingly ordinary girl gets thrown into this extraordinary situation.
Yeah, she's like this nexus of power, unknowingly tied to the dreaming. And even though she's scared and confused at first, she steps up. She shows incredible responsibility, not just for herself, but for the fate of the entire dreaming.
Rose's story is all about potential. She's not a god, she's not immortal, but she's got this inner strength that lets her face these forces she doesn't understand. And she shows us that even the most average person can have an incredible impact.
Gaiman's saying you don't have to be a cosmic being to make a difference. Responsibility isn't about power, it's about making choices. It's realizing we're all connected and then making decisions that create a better future for ourselves and everyone else.
And sometimes those decisions mean sacrifice.
Hmm.
Think about Rose's grandmother, Unity Kincaid. She suffers because Morpheus was absent while he was imprisoned.
Her story's so sad. It shows how Morpheus's actions have unintended consequences. She's a victim of things she couldn't control, but even with all that hardship, she's incredibly strong.
And her sacrifice, her willingness to endure all that pain, it's what allows Rose to fulfill her destiny. It's a testament to family, to those connections that last for generations, and to the sacrifices we make for the people we love.
It makes you wonder about the legacy we leave behind. What sacrifices were made for us? What will we sacrifice for future generations? It's a heavy thought, but also kind of empowering.
Because it reminds us that what we do matters. We're not just watching this whole existence thing play out, we're part of it. We shape the world with every decision we make. And the Sandman encourages us to take that responsibility seriously, to recognize our own power and use it for good.
It's such a relevant message, even all these years after The Sandman was first published. It reminds us that those struggles between what we want and what we have to do, the consequences of our actions and the power of sacrifice, those aren't just fantasy ideas. Those are at the heart of being human.
And as we keep exploring The Sandman, we're going to keep unpacking these themes. We'll look at how different characters deal with these challenges, the choices they make, the sacrifices they endure, and the lessons they learn.
And we'll see how even in a world full of dreams and nightmares, the human spirit can overcome anything. It can adapt and ultimately find a way to create meaning and purpose.
It's really amazing, isn't it, how The Sandman can be so fantastical and yet so grounded in the human experience. We've gone from like the heights of the dreaming all the way down to like, regular people living their lives, exploring all the complexities of responsibility and sacrifice. But there's one more thing we need to look at.
Yeah, you're right. We can't really fully understand those themes, responsibility and sacrifice, without going back to the Endless, because they're not just T characters, right? They're these fundamental forces, each one representing a different part of what it means to exist, and each one gives us a different perspective on how to deal with duty, with the choices we make. It's like Gaiman is giving us this huge buffet of responsibility. We get to taste all these different approaches and decide what we connect with most. We've talked about Dream, right? His rigidity, that unwavering need for order, and we touched on desire and delirium, those agents of chaos, always poking at him, messing with his control.
But what about the other siblings? They offer these interesting contrasts to how Dream handles things.
Yeah.
Death, for example. She embodies a completely different kind of responsibility. It's not about order or controlling what happens. It's about acceptance and compassion.
She's like this gentle guide, leading souls from the world of the living into, well, whatever comes next. And in a way, her role it's just as vital as Dream's. She makes sure that existence keeps flowing, that there's balance between life and death.
And there's this gentleness to her, right?
Yeah.
Which is so different from Dream. He's often so serious, severe. Makes you think, can he learn to balance that need for order with actually understanding the human heart?
It's like the big question hanging over Morpheus the whole time. Can he move past all the rules and embrace something more nuanced in his role? And it's his interactions with his siblings, They're these opposing forces, and they push him toward change.
Think about Destiny, for example. He's all about the inevitability of things.
Yeah.
That certain things just have to happen. His presence is a constant reminder to Dream that even He, the Dream King, can't control everything. There are forces bigger than him.
Pretty humbling, right? For a guy with that much power, Destiny just accepts what's going to be, and it challenges Dream's belief that he can shape, everything.
And then there's Despair, Destiny's twin sister. She's like the embodiment of all the negative stuff, self-doubt, the darkness that can just eat you up. She's a reminder that hope is fragile, that everyone's vulnerable, even the most powerful beings.
It's like despair and desire. They're the two extremes that Dream has to walk between, right? He has to find that balance, that sweet spot between temptation and utter hopelessness. And I think through that struggle, he starts to get human nature a little bit better.
What's really cool is that Gaiman doesn't make any of the endless totally good or evil. They're just forces, like parts of existence that have to all work together for the universe to function.
Like he's saying, look, there's no one right way to be responsible. You have to find balance, see how these forces are connected. Even the most powerful beings have limits.
And that's where growth comes in. We actually see Dream changing, especially later in the Sandman. He starts thinking more, questioning his own beliefs. He even regrets some of the things he's done, admits that he hurt people.
It's subtle, but it's huge because it means that even Dream, a being that old and powerful, can evolve, can learn, can try to be better.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from the Sandman. Responsibility isn't about being perfect. It's about growing. It's about admitting you messed up,
Right.
understanding the consequences, and trying to be a better person.
It's something I really connect with, and I bet a lot of our listeners do too. We've all messed up. We've all felt the pressure of doing the right thing, and we've all looked for a way to redeem ourselves.
And the Sandman gives us a way to think about those experiences,
Yeah.
a new way to look at our own lives and make choices that actually match up with what we believe in. It reminds us that even when things are hard, even when we're up against things we can't control, we still have the power to choose, to be responsible, to make a difference.
It's a reminder that the stories we tell ourselves, the dreams we have, the things we give up, they all contribute to existence. We might not be shaping universes or anything, but each of us has a part to play. We have our own story, our own legacy.
So as we leave the dreaming and go back to our regular lives, let's take the wisdom of the Sandman with us. Let's embrace how complicated responsibility is. Let's try to grow, to understand, and let's never forget how powerful our choices are.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into dreams, destiny, and the human spirit. Until next time, sweet dreams.